Welcome, everybody, to the Town of Richmond Water and Sewer Commission meeting, October the 21st, 2024. Any public comments? Well, if anybody out there is joining, I don't see them. We had some technical difficulties, but now we're online. So next along, any additions, deletions, or modifications to tonight's agenda? No. Okay, moving right along. Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes of the meeting of October 7th, 2024.
You have a second?
I'll second.
All right, Lisa seconds. Discussion, anybody? Comments?
No,
Okay,
them over, looked good.
all right, same here. All right, call in for a vote to approve the minutes from October 7th, 24.
Aye, this is Jay.
Aaron, I.
Bart, aye.
Lisa, aye.
And aye, motion passed. Next up, purchase order.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the warrants as presented.
You do purchase order
Oh,
first?
we have to purchase, right, that has to come first. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move we approve purchase order 4902 to US Bank for the water and sewer portion of the Jericho Road loan in the amount of $54,887.68.
All right,
I just realized that should be 4908.
eight.
So that's our second error of the night. We have one more to go.
No, 49.
I know what it
We need
is.
a
Give me some
second.
time.
Oh,
We need a second.
4908, do I have a second? All
Have a
right,
second, Jason.
Aaron is second. Any discussion on this purchase order?
No.
Okay, just a quick summary. This is something that we've already approved for payment on paying off a loan, nothing controversial about it. So we're just getting on the record. All right, calling for a vote for approval of purchase order 4908.
Jay, aye.
Aaron, I.
Bart, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the warrants as presented.
Have a second?
I will second that motion.
Right, Aaron seconds. This is amount of $8,934.66. Any discussion?
No.
No discussion. Calling for a vote on the warrant 22407.
Jay, aye.
Aaron, I.
Bart, aye.
Lisa, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. Okay. Minutes passed there. All right, next up. Consideration of approval of water and wastewater allocation for Peacable Kingdom Development. Josh, would you give just a brief?
sure. I'll try to make it brief. I laugh because Gary and I spent about an hour and a half earlier this week trying to figure this out, but
Earlier this week, it's Monday.
last week. Okay, off to a great start here this evening. So I made this chart that hopefully it'll help us walk through it. So Peacable Kingdom is a development that Gary Brescher's working on. It started off with, I think, one house, and he bought that area with the surrounding land, has since subdivided it. He's planning on 9 different units over there. There's a long history of different approvals for preliminary allocation, existing allocation with the structure that was in place when you purchased it, and various uses of that allocation going to final allocation, and then some changes in the development along the way. The key letter here is the December 3rd, 2019 letter, which summarized the preliminary allocation, the total allocation for water as 2850 gallons per day and wastewater as 1470 gallons per day. And that was an allocation that looked at existing allocation when the property was purchased, as well as preliminary allocations that were approved over the years. So it does go a bit out of date order, but I tried to summarize. So he had final allocation for unit 4 here in 2014, unit 6 in 2014 as well. And then in 2018, final allocation for units 1 and 2. And in 2020, final allocation for unit 5. So I kept the running total over here of, okay, this is the final. He's still got 1,200 left for water and 420 left for wastewater. So tonight he's coming before us to look for 750 gallons per day of water in preliminary allocation, 420 gallons per day of preliminary allocation in wastewater, and also wants to go to final allocation for unit 7. That's 450 gallons in water, 210 in wastewater. And there's actually an additional bedroom in unit 6 that was not accounted for up here. So we wanted to make sure we added the final allocation of 150 gallons per day for water. So that's the summary of a long history. And I think hopefully this chart will help us kind of keep track. And Gary also has documented things very well in some letters that I have on file. So for his next allocation, I think it'll take us 5 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see.
So any questions?
I move to approve the following.
Bart, I think. Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
Bart, sorry, go ahead.
I did raise my hand.
Yeah, you did.
I apologize, go ahead.
I have two questions. And I should know the answer to the first one. Where does the name Peaceable Kingdom come from?
It's, we're trying to design the houses to look like they were built between 1810 and 1850. And there was a Quaker painter in Pennsylvania named Edward Hicks that painted during that period, and all his paintings
Peaceful
are
Kingdom of the
a
Branch.
series of, called Peaceful Kingdom, and they're all, or most of them have in the background, William Penn signing a treaty with the Native Americans, and in the foreground, it's usually like a very young child with wild and domesticated animals all living in harmony.
I had a doctor who used to have that on the wall of his office for some reason.
So,
So
I-
there's like 50 of those paintings in museums around the country,
Yep.
around the world, really.
He found something that worked for him and he stuck with it.
so I hope other people appreciate that answer as much as I do. The other question I have is about service lines and meters. How many service lines and meters are there to these buildings?
The service line is off of Main. The definition of the service line, and
Well, let me then ask, how many separate meters are there?
Is
Is there 1 meter at the service line that measures use for all the buildings, or?
Or maybe just.
yeah, there's one for each building. It's
Right.
built.
I think is what you were thinking is there one for each building? Or each user?
Yeah,
Mm,
and
interesting.
are those
Town.
off the town service line or are they off a private service line? And the reason I'm pursuing this is because we have talked about, and we'll talk again tonight about how many meters per building and how many shut-offs.
Well, everything is a single family over there, except for the old carpenter house on the corner. But there are individual meters in that building for each, one for each unit.
So where Bard's going with this is we've had to revisit it is where there's one town cutoff meter valve.
Mhm.
And but it's developed that there have been other facilities that have started putting in an extra meter, but then have come back and say, oh, can the town take this meter over? So we have the 1 meter and then there's separate meters.
Oh, I don't have that.
So you'll have a town meter per each house, right?
Yeah, right now, the line, well, the house on the corner, the old carpenter house, that comes off of Main on Thompson Road, but the other ones come off of Main that I've put in, but I do have a letter saying that the town will, I think it said it'll take over that line after it's been in use for so long.
And then each individual house is served off of that line with their own
Right.
specific line and a curb stop.
Yeah,
Okay, so the town will find that letter, the town would take that line over, that's public, and then each structure has 1 line and 1 town meter.
right.
And to expand where this came from, and I think Steve first raised this, if you have 1 meter and 1 shut off for more than 1 customer, then if somebody doesn't pay, you're either shutting everybody off or nobody off.
Yeah.
And so that was the
Right.
root
So we don't have that.
of that concern.
Great, yeah,
Right.
yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the following preliminary water and sewer allocations for the Peaceful Kingdom development. 750 gallons per day water, 420 gallons per day sewer. And the following final water and sewer final allocations for the Peaceful Kingdom development. 150 gallons per day water for a 3rd bedroom at unit 6, 210 gallons per day sewer for unit 7, 450 gallons per day water for the 3 bedrooms in unit 7.
Anybody want to second that?
This Bart, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? No further discussion, calling for a vote on the motion?
Say aye.
Aaron, I'm gonna abstain just because I don't fully understand what we're voting
Then
on.
we shouldn't be voting.
What?
Then we shouldn't be voting.
Well, I just feel like I don't understand all the like development stuff. So I feel like I'm not
So let's.
We
let's
could have
vote.
further discussion though.
Yeah.
Well, but I feel
let's
like
not
I just
vote.
need to learn more about the whole process. Like, I don't want to say, I just don't know
Yeah. So
how this
basically.
works.
he's-
I've never seen one happen
Oh, yeah.
before, so I'm just saying like I was
it's
just
a-
gonna
You haven't done,
abstain,
you
like,
haven't done
we
an
should
allocation
be able
in
to-
general.
yeah, I've never done any of
So what
those.
it is, so the preliminary allocation basically reserves allocation in sewer and in water for development. So in this case, he's saying, well, for my 9 units, I'm gonna need a total of, and I forget what the total is, of this many gallons per day. And that gallons per day is in the water and sewer rule that's set up by the state for like per bedroom per unit. So the preliminary allocation bumps that up to what he's gonna need for all of his 9. And then before you build the structure, you have to go to final allocation. So the final allocations that are getting approved tonight allow him to build unit 6 and 7. So he's got that fine, and then you pay for that allocation as well. It's like $4.41 per gallon of sewer and like $1.80.
Well, I saw the like
Yeah.
thing that you sent with
So-
all the.
So once you go,
prices.
so the preliminary is free just to reserve, and then you go to final and pay for that.
Oh, okay.
So that's what,
That
that's
makes
what's
a
happening.
little-
I have a question too. And we might add that the point of all this is to make sure that we don't over allocate our systems.
Mhm.
So the state looks at both water and wastewater. You don't want to wake up one day and
I had,
you
well,
oversubscribe in terms of capacity.
yeah, and that was, I assumed that was in the mix and I didn't know like what the max capacity.
That's kind of my question too. I mean, we've got certain water consumption figures, probably realistic. But the wastewater figures, for example, we got 600 gallons a day, 210 wastewater, 300 gallons a day, 210 in wastewater. How is wastewater?
So for, a re-
output
Computed?
Yeah,
yeah, so for it, I'm not exactly sure how they do the math at the state level for this, but basically for each residential unit, it's 210 gallons per day of
okay, so it's
wastewater.
a standard
paper.
figure.
It's a standard thing, yeah, and
Okay.
every bedroom is 150 gallons of water.
Okay.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't match up perfectly to like the in and the out.
Mhm.
I don't know that I can, yeah. And some would say that some of it's overestimated, some of it's underestimated. I think the general consensus is it's somewhat overestimated in a lot of cases, but it's what everybody plays by.
Right,
It's
I
what
know
everybody
nobody
pays
wants
for.
a sewage meter. It's
Right.
just not-
No, we're not doing,
We're not doing sewage
and
meters,
this
they
is,
cost a ton.
and just to be clear, this is totally separate from actual usage.
Mhm.
This is just to get the service there. And then the actual usage, we of course meter the water and then we charge the sewer based on that water meter.
Right.
Assuming
So
it's-
even, so if they use less than that per day, they get charged less than that per
Okay.
day. But the
So
initial,
those are planning figures then.
the initial startup fee,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's planning for, like Bart said, it's
Yeah.
planning for what can our capacity be.
Right, because otherwise, if it was based on actual billing, $7.50 per day water and the $4.20 per day sewer, that would be
A whole
incongruous.
lot of water.
Well,
Like,
yeah, but it'd be, since we meter based on the water, we don't meter based on
Oh,
the sewer.
exactly. yeah.
Yes.
Where math wouldn't work.
So, and I'm not asking this to, I'm asking because I'm learning. So if we were to not pass something on like the final, that means they couldn't go on with their development.
Right.
But the preliminary, like, I guess that wouldn't,
Yeah, the preliminary sort of gets them on hold, and then I think you need a letter on the preliminary, is that what you're, yeah, so I'll write a letter that'll go to the state
well,
to
and I
say
think you
that.
included some of those in the packet. They were like various letters from other. things.
Yeah,
So this is another step. Like, I know the development, there's like review boards and other stuff you have to go to, so
Yeah.
this is another piece of
Mhm.
being able to.
yeah, and part of it is your state wastewater permit as well, he has to prove it, like, the town is saying, yes, we have the capacity to service your development, so he can get that approval from the state.
So I would observe this is also unique to people who are on the system. You have to come to the system and say, do you have capacity? And there are systems in the state presumably that don't have capacity.
Mhm.
You can't
Yeah.
join.
Mhm.
In which case, then you have to present an alternative method of dealing with
Mhm.
both water
And
Yeah, what's your
and
septic? what's your
wastewater,
well?
and it has to be plausible for development. I would also add, it's why dense infrastructure is always looking for public water and wastewater, because you don't have to do it on site. You want to hook up to a system.
Mhm. And I was reading in that thing that's coming up about like the private systems, if you can't hook on and all these,
Mhm.
so, okay. Well, then, yes, I'm ready to vote yes.
I just
I
had a
just
question
didn't-
for the
No, that's good,
applicant.
good.
No,
I'm
it's
glad you asked.
absolutely.
I didn't know what allocations were when I first started on this either.
Well, I knew like what the allocation
Yeah.
was, but I didn't know
No,
I
it's,
guess I just didn't know all the little, and it seemed not in a mean way, but it was a little complicated because there were the
No, it's
preliminary
good,
and the
yeah.
final, and I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna maybe not.
It's good that you asked.
Just
I
stay
mean,
out of-
we don't want to try to catch up on our time at the expense of knowing what the heck we're voting on.
Yeah.
License to
I have a
learn.
Question?
Yeah,
or
is
comment?
is there a unit 3? Doesn't seem to be one in the list.
Yeah, we're,
Not built.
not built yet.
Oh, okay, okay. It's
this is like Star Wars movies, right?
I know, it is like Star Wars. I thought of that. Like, we started later and then went back.
Oh, yeah, right.
I think that was confusing me too, because the number, I was reading like the
Yeah.
chart that you had and the number
Well,
was like.
if
this
I
is
tried to go back,
Yes and no.
I had a chart that started chronologically,
Mhm.
but really that December letter sort of just summarized, hey, at this point in time, here's what we have done. And I've got, if you want to look at the data, I've got all the letters and everything that supports where we got to in December.
Mhm.
It was just easier to present that in December, the commission agreed, this is where we're at, and let's sort of go forward from there. So forward and backwards, I guess, as the case may be.
Thanks, Ned.
Okay, so calling for a vote on the motion.
Jay, I
Aaron, I.
Hard I.
Lisa, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes.
know that Heidi has arrived literally exactly on time.
Yeah.
Timing is everything, right?
Yeah, okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
yeah,
you.
you bet. Go forth and prosper.
Can I just ask, what are they doing on the sewer line? I know it's on the agenda. but-
Bridge?
Oh, the repairing it from flood damage.
Or where it was bent?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You lost the insulation around it. Okay. Moving on, approval of water wastewater allocation for 83 Huntington Road.
Yeah, I have a pretty easy chart for this one as well. This one's easier, I think, than what we just talked about.
It's definitely more straightforward.
It
Stone
is, yeah, it's a lot
yeah.
more
4
straightforward.
more for man and
So-
machine and a bunch for Stone Cool.
Yeah, so they're asking for, they've sort of combined the Stone Corral and the Man and Machine shop together for allocations. So the top part of this shows original allocations for Stone Corral was 29. It's just easier to cut to the chase, was 1852 for water and 1460 for wastewater. There was an additional 60 water, 60 wastewater for the, at that time, auto parts store. So the total was 1912 water and 1520 wastewater. Since that time, Stone Corral has increased its seating capacity, adding 51 seats. So it needs an additional 1530 in water, 1377 in wastewater. The employees have increased to 2 employees, which adds another 30 in water and 26 in wastewater. And Man and Machine is increased with 4 employees to need 60 and 52. Total of 1620 additional requested for the water supply and 1455 for wastewater. So that would bring the total allocations to 3532 for water and 2975 for wastewater. And tonight they're just looking for the preliminary allocation for the 1620 water, 1455 wastewater, and we'll come back for final allocation.
Jay?
So where is Stone Corral putting all these additional seats?
They're already
Within the-
there.
the
Oh, they're already
patio.
Yeah, they started out with like 24 seats.
Okay, so it's just capacity. I thought, I got the impression for a second that they were like expanding. further.
No, I think they started off as a small tasting room with 24 seats.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is coming up because the state's looking at them to kind of re-up their permit. And they're like, oh, we do have more seats. So that's why they're
Okay,
coming to the
makes sense.
commission to ask
Yeah.
for more seats. And there's more than enough left over in this for the brewery operation itself. We sat with their engineer and Tyler Billingsley kind of helped me kind of go through some of it as well. And we all agree there's plenty there.
Okay, great.
I just want to add, I mean, you and Stephen both, you know, the state said, hey, look, we need to add to this. And you guys came over and said, all right, we need to sit down and discuss this. And that we immediately got on with the engineer to do this. And that's what we've had to do.
So go back to where's all how this fits in with water that's going into the beer and out the door for consumption calculations.
Yeah, it is.
Monthly.
It is in there, and the water is tracked very well on the brewery side because they have state permits they have to fulfill.
Right.
And so when we bill for the wastewater, we have a calculation for the high BOD waste that comes back to the plant. We have a calculation for how much goes out, so we can subtract that. And then we bill also for the regular wastewater. there's a calculation for how much beer was brewed, how much was side streamed going out the door, not going out down the drain. And they actually have a tank that they empty so that we know exactly how much is in that tank and they report, this is how much we put down the drain. So they have more than enough allocation for what they use in a monthly operation over there for the brewery side of it. And then, of course, we bill every month for the usage and the fixed fee.
Right, pre-treatment tanks, which are.
Yep. Again, they do a really, really great job of reducing their BOD strength. It's really low when you think about how
It'll be
a
hard.
brewery could be. Yeah.
They actually won an award.
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Wow,
We've done very good over there.
wow.
That's a question that a former brewer would ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where's the water going?
Yeah, they do a really.
Tell me more.
That's right. So how are you dealing with your BOD?
But yeah, this allocation will get them, I think, exactly where they need to be with the current use.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve preliminary water and sewer allocation for 83 Huntington Road. 1455 gallons per day sewer and 1620 gallons per day water.
This is Lisa. I'll second.
Any further discussion? Calling for a vote on the motion?
J.I.
Karen, I.
Art, I.
Lisa, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes.
Yeah,
Okay. All right.
That it?
That's it. Sorry. Good. We can make it more exciting for you. Next up, consideration of approval of a policy and the amendment of a current policy which would limit each structure to only one town water meter. Or,
Yeah, so let me start with that. So, too many windows open, but go ahead.
As you're looking at or pulling that up, just to observe, I think this is the third or fourth time we've talked about this topic, right? And sort of what the policy goal is, what the policy risks are, and how to write it and articulate it in such a way that meets the concerns that in particular, I think Steve represented at our previous meeting.
yes.
And maybe to restate that, the concern is if you have multiple meters off one shut-off valve and one meter does not pay or one customer does not pay their service, you don't have a way of cutting off that one non-paying customer under our shut-off policy without also shutting off the paying customers.
Right.
And that's a conundrum or catch-22.
And an invitation to a lawsuit.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a lawsuit is.
The
For-
one who's
for the
cutting,
tenant.
who's getting cut off because of their neighbor
Right.
is a lawsuit.
Right, yeah, with maybe the landlord.
Yeah, the
Um,
landlord would be on the hook for the.
Probably, but, and to your point, I'm just wondering, we don't have to do it now, but maybe down the road is to consider maybe adding a paragraph to that effect so that people are aware of it, or?
I mean.
We can.
you do
I don't
what
think
you
we need,
want.
I think we should pass this now, but think about that so that when people are applying for or expanding and this comes up, we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think the policy mostly covers, because it basically says if you want to have two town meters, you have to have two service lines
Right.
there.
What I've sometimes seen in similar policy documents is a preamble that says purpose. So what's the purpose of the policy?
Mhm.
And arguably it's to protect the interest of the water sewer system from providing water sewer for free, or for cutting off a paying customer when you're cutting off a non-paying customer. They're
Mhm.
sort of like a two-edged sword, it seems to me, for this policy. And I haven't thought about how to frame that in a purpose statement, but we probably could. At a future date.
We can add it to the next agenda, I mean.
Yeah, if we were to bring it back for another one, we'll try to write a purpose statement and see. But if you have any further thoughts on a purpose statement, I'd love to.
I'll see what I can do.
Maybe you and I can connect and
Yeah,
wordsmith
fair
something and then
enough.
come back. Because there's probably a few, yeah, that's one of the main purposes. There could be others that we could think of as well. And there's really two policies, because there's the one that I wrote fresh that's controlling the number of water meters per structure. And then there's the one policy that we have that's for new development, which talks about a number of things, including water meters. So I sort of eliminated or took out what they had written there and dropped in part of this word for word that seemed relevant.
Mm.
So, okay, next agenda.
Yes.
All right, we'll get it done eventually.
We, will- I don't think it's, I mean, it's-
Unfortunately, the rest of this is pretty informational.
The other thing that I told you I was gonna tell you was
Yeah.
wrong. If you go to the document that had the 7 pages,
Oh, yeah.
the part that's highlighted in red on page 6.
Yep.
Right underneath it, item 4, it says backflow presenter, and I think it should be backflow
Preventer.
preventer.
Oh,
Right.
okay, well, we can change that typo from 4 years
very
ago.
good eye.
Good
man.
catch. Yeah.
Thanks.
That was my mistake from 4 years ago. You're cleaning up all sorts of stuff here, Aaron. Uh,
Okay. Topic at a water and sewer commission meeting, huh?
all
Next
right.
up, backflow presenter. Thank you.
Here you go.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
next meeting there. All right, moving right along. Update on installation of water meters. We got some more in. I saw Brad and I'm
Mike?
Mike, yeah, over on building.
And Mike, yeah, they continue to move through them. Where's my notes? And Steve's not here tonight because he's not feeling well. But they've got 124 as of Friday afternoon completed. And yeah, they'll, I think pick the pace up here. Steve was out for a week and a half or so a while back. That slowed him down, but they've got a 4th staff member and I think they're gonna start moving along.
Right.
Okay,
Good to,
good to hear.
yeah, that is good. And they're still working on, Zenner is still working on that, having enough
Right.
space.
Go ahead, sorry.
Enough space in the readout. There was something that had to be taken out because they needed to put like a serial number.
On the bill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where that stands. That's sort of like the next reason thing here is the FY21 or FY25 Q1 water bills are a bit delayed because of part of that issue is that they had to take out the address, I think it was, or the parcel ID.
The parcel ID.
Parcel ID. So I think Connie's trying to work through that. She's also trying to work through how do we have 1 meter for part of the billing cycle and then a new meter for the next part. So normally we would have had the bills out on the 10th of October. She's hoping that by the end of October, we should have the bills out.
Have we sent the bills out to the people that don't have new water meters?
No, I think it's
Seems
like
like
a
we
whole,
could just
I-
like cross those off the
I can
list.
ask her. I think it's like a batch process though, maybe, where you kind of do all or nothing, but I'll ask if we can do that partially. That would make.
I don't
sense.
know, it just seems
No,
like
you're right.
there's 200 of them that
It
you
would
could just,
make sense if we could,
then-
if we can run a partial batch. But I think she was trying to catch up this week to get trained to figure out how to do that, to get these out sooner rather than later.
cause the old ones, you'd be doing the old way in theory.
right,
So I
yeah.
guess,
I just don't know if it's like, I know some processes she has that like, you kind of got to do them all at once, or like, I don't pretend to understand the network system. But I'll ask, because yeah, if it's gonna be another week or so, we could maybe get some out, so.
Okay,
But yeah, some learning curves here. I think that ultimately, once we get through those and figure out the software side of it, we'll be off to the races.
great. That's good news. Thank you. Yeah, and you just gave us an update on
The water bills, yeah, we
Yeah,
moved right
two-
into it.
the 2-for-1. Great.
Yes, indeed.
Update on repair of sewer line under Bridge Street.
So All Seasons Excavating began setting up their scaffolding last week, and today they've made some progress. It's interesting. I looked at it this afternoon. They didn't set a scaffold on the entire span of it. They have like a small scaffold that they're sort of moving down. And so, yeah, I
good
took some
idea.
pictures. I should have uploaded them. But they've already straightened some of the hangers and looks like they've repaired some of the insulation. So it seems like it's moving on pretty well.
But for this one, they told us the scaffolding would be more expensive than last time.
cause it's movable.
Maybe that, I don't.
Maybe.
I just wanted to see our.
You know what? I go back to that. You ever see that anecdote on Facebook where like our ship wasn't working and we tried 5 different contractors and no one could fix it. One guy came in, turned one bolt and charges $50,000.
Yeah.
And they're like, it was worth it because he had the knowledge, the skills, just the tools and the experience to get it happening. So I'm like, you know what? They were the only bidder.
Mhm.
If they found a more expensive way to do it and we're getting the right result,
A less expensive,
Oh.
no, a more, but it's
Sorry.
working, right? No,
They
no,
found
you-
an
either
easier,
way.
an easier way to do it, and I don't know how much the staff costs, but it did, when I saw it, I thought the same thing. I'm like, gee, that looks a lot less expensive. But I was like, you know what? No one else even said they could do it, so I guess we're doing it.
But at the same time, we need to make sure we're not being fleeced because
But we went out for an RFP, we contacted a bunch of vendors to do this type of work, and we got one bid.
Or
I would just note that we had a temporal problem doing this before it freezes.
Right.
Yeah, there's also
Mm.
that.
So
Also true,
like,
yeah.
if it were something, it didn't matter. That
We
the
could put it
time
back out.
pressure
Right.
didn't exist. We
Mhm.
say, oh, well, okay, put her out to bid, try to get other bidders. But I think that feels different, at least to me in this regard, that
That's a good point.
we're trying to get it, because if it froze and we had repairs over the water,
oh, yes, that would not be good. But I do, you know, if you know you're the only bidder and you, I just feel like,
No, they didn't know they were the
they
only
would
bidder.
not have known it.
No, yeah, no,
but
they-
now they know.
well, now
So the
they
next
know,
time it happens, like,
but next time we could get 3 bids.
Yeah, yeah, right, they might lose a
That's the
bid.
mystery of the sealed bid process. Nobody really knows until you're there.
yeah.
So,
I wonder too, if in fact what they decided was like, hey, we can do this little short section, but we were gonna spend more time moving the scaffolding instead of putting it up all at once and fixing it. So that could have been a trade-off possibly between the hours.
Mhm.
work
Maybe
hours.
the bill will come in lower too. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I highly doubt it.
Yeah.
In a competitive
One can
bid,
find
in a
something.
competitive bid process, it usually
Honest and
comes in,
entrepreneurship.
usually comes in right on the
Maybe
money.
flying monkeys will come down and help out, you know?
Mhm.
Great,
All
okay.
right.
Our bridge sewer line is getting repaired
We are
before the big
making it,
freeze, and that's a good
yes.
thing.
Mhm.
Cracks in the water tank.
Good, yes, now cracks in the water tank.
So the engineer that we hired did a site inspection last week. Steve said he was there the entire day, very thorough review of the exterior of the tank. Looked at the cracking on the sides. I guess there's some cracks on the top. He expects to have a full report to us in a couple of weeks, and he'll come into the commission and give his full report. But overall, Steve was very impressed with the level of detail he went through with it, and I think he's gonna have some recommendations on how we can fix it, and he'll let us know how bad he thinks it is or what was maybe missed in the process, if anything, but I don't want to speak too much on it because the engineer will be here to let us know.
I'm hoping it's not bad, because if it's bad, that's gonna cost a lot.
Mm.
Or
I am just optimistic that the report will be the Alice's Restaurant version with images and
Glossies.
arrows.
Circles and arrows.
Yeah.
Up and down.
No, I think there will be some images, and we gave him the video from the dive team that came last fall. And there's even, he found some pictures in the original construction documents, I think, of the original construction, so I don't know how much of that will play into what his findings are. But he has a lot of the original documents as well, so.
Excellent,
Yeah.
thank you.
But no, I mean, I would assume like if there was alarms to go off,
No,
to come in and
yeah.
said something.
I mean, from what Steve said, it sounded like he thought there were some things we could do to repair it. And there wasn't gonna be, like, it wasn't like, oh my God, it's gonna fail immediately. So I think that, yeah, we'll have a more thorough report, but it didn't sound like there was anything urgent.
Right.
Gosh, is it expected the work is all external in the tank?
That, I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah,
I hope,
I
but
have no idea.
We'll wait with bated breath to find out.
yeah.
We'll
that's a
see.
big-
I will say the one time I started Googling this, there were
Mhm.
products and materials that you used on the inside, essentially like, you know, the rubber water seal kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting we should use that,
Mhm.
but that is one of the things that I stumbled across in,
Yeah.
you know, a minimal amount of internet.
Really big caulking guns.
Yeah, Steve mentioned that I think the engineer did mention that sometimes a membrane is
Yes.
used.
Yeah,
But he also said that sometimes it's sort of thrown in as this is a nice to have, and towns will say, oh, we don't necessarily need the nice to have.
Mm.
And you were here at the time, I don't even know if it was discussed, and maybe we don't remember, but, you know, it seems like would be a good idea, but not mandatory. But he'll have a better report to kind of look at our options. I don't really want to speak too much more, because
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't have the expertise.
so we talked about it just in very hypothetical terms. I only point to swimming pool technology, which I've saw big swimming pools in the 50s and 60s that didn't have liners.
Mhm.
They were just like concrete and they paint them,
Mm.
you know, and try to fill the cracks.
Hmm.
And then subsequent to that, liners are a really common thing. It's essentially a membrane inside the concrete or whatever surface. All of which is to say, I'm agnostic. I trust the engineers, but in 2024, 2025, arguably there are more options and maybe we can come up with one that's effective and affordable.
Yeah, go the extra mile if we need to, you're right? Yeah.
And is food grade and doesn't leach, all those
Yeah.
things, that's
Yeah.
the, like,
That's
when
what
you
I
say
came
that, I'm like,
across.
oh, interesting.
Well, that's what I came across, because, agriculturally or breweries, you got big tanks, they have to hold things and not leak, right?
Mhm.
So unless it's pure stainless steel, what else is it?
Nothing.
Well, except water is generally non-caustic as well, unlike many of the things that you use in agriculture. or
Unless you're in
brewery.
Flint, Michigan.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I'll just say that's what there are some things that are approved, whether you wanted to drink the water or not is a second question.
Yeah.
But I'll note that fluoride is itself an additive that's controversial as well, so
Mhm.
I don't know, to be continued, I guess.
Okay, wow, well, superintendent's report. Not here, but
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I know that came up last week was the PLC, which is the control panel for the septic receiving area, failed. So he was looking into ways to get that fixed. It'll be about $5,000, but he was confirming with the engineers that when we fix it, we can use it for the next iteration of the septic receiving area. So we're not just gonna spend $5,000 and in 2 years have to throw it out. I don't know the update as of today, if it's fixed or not. He's also working on cleaning out the remaining solids in the one aeration tank that was not the fish tank. The fish tank is online now. That one's operational. So we're cleaning out the other one that hasn't been drained in years. He did a lot of it manually by hand, literally 5-gallon buckets. But I think they got to the point where they're going to hire P&P for $2,300 for one day to remove the solids. And they have an out of the way paved portion in the wastewater treatment facility. They're going to essentially lay them out, let them drain. They're going to go back into a drain that goes back into the facility. So nothing's going to leave the facility. And he said, basically, they're open air drying right now in the tank. We're just going to move that to another spot. So it shouldn't be any impact on odor in the park. And he said a lot of them are pretty dry right now anyway, because it's been sitting for several weeks and drying out. But they've got a solution for that. I know initially he was thinking it was going to be like a $15,000 plus job for this, and we're going to get it done for under $3,000 with a good amount of labor. But Steve is ingenious and he's figuring ways out to make it happen.
Awesome.
So,
So there you go.
and Mike is working out good, so.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I think Mike's doing well. Robert just started a couple weeks ago, but I think he's in the learning curve, learning a lot about like what he needs to do for classes, and both he and Mike are doing what they need to do to get educated. And then Brad's doing a great job. He's
Yeah.
really stepped up into the assistant superintendent role, I think, and really
Nice.
embraced it. And it's great. He called me up. Steve's not in today. Here's what we're doing. So like he's right on the ball. It's great.
question, do we have anybody who is currently, at one point, we had a gentleman who had failed his exams a couple of times, but was getting closer each time.
Mhm.
Did he ever pass? Was that Brad?
That I think, so I know Alan tried, I think 2 or 3 times for the wastewater license and never quite got there. I think Brian might have taken it once, but I'm not positive. But we do, yeah, as soon as we get Brad passed, then we don't have to work, we don't have to have.
Right, but he hasn't passed.
No, he hasn't passed.
Okay,
yet.
that was.
But the interval of time that he could take it again hasn't passed either, if I remember correctly, like
It might be.
some period of time had to go until the fall
He
sometime.
got sick too for a while.
Right, and there was
He-
like
he's-
some,
Okay, so that's,
He's still working on it for sure. He definitely wants to pass it and get certified, and then at that point, we won't need Simon anymore on the
Right.
contractual basis, which will be helpful in the budget. But it's been, I mean, integral having him for the last year and a half.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, items for the next agenda. I have one comment I'd like to make, so I'm gone for November.
Okay.
You're in the capable leadership of Aaron here, so. Just wanted to point that out.
Okay,
Items for the next agenda.
So we'll bring the policy back. We'll probably have a tank update, meter update, and billing update.
Morgan Bard too, this puts more pressure on everybody else. I also expect to be flying back from out of state on November 4th, arriving after both meetings.
All right. November, yeah, the night before the election. Okay.
Perfect
Sorry.
attendance, people. Gotta have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay. I have no reason to think I'm not gonna be here.
That's a good point, because I'm flying back from Dallas in the morning of the fourth, and I just go, geez, what time's my flight coming?
Oh, boy.
This
is Jay live from the Chicago airport.
I could possibly join by Zoom.
Why is that on there?
And
I will find out.
Okay.
For some strange reason, it's not on my calendar.
And if for some reason it does come up, just let me know early next week and we can try to reschedule the meeting to a later date that week or even the following week. That week could be busy with the election and a few other things,
That's.
Button down the hash, is it?
but the
Would
following
we be
week.
allowed to do it the following Monday if
Yeah,
everyone?
we could do it. Well, actually, the following Monday, we
I won't
probably
be fine.
that
You'll be fine.
Tuesday.
I
Okay,
get back at
okay.
2:19 PM, barring
Oh.
any interruptions.
Should be all set then. I think we'll be good. Yeah, the following Monday is Veterans Day, and then we have a select board budget meeting the next day, but we could do it before the budget meeting, but I think unless your flight changes dramatically, I think we're in good shape.
Okay, great.
Is it just the 4th that is the concern, or?
Sounds like.
That's, yeah, I'll only be gone like 4 or 5 days, but I'm literally arriving at Plattsburgh at 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah, we'll be-
Okay.
Okay.
Good. All right, that's all to add. to the
Chairman, move to
agenda.
adjourn.
All right.
Bard, I'll take that.
Bard second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
The ayes, carry the motion. Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
just, guys, these are the allocations. Some of them are just Morgan. Some of them have lines for two members, so you can, they're from the 90s. We need to update them.